I'm Hazel. Standing here in the beautiful garden, surrounded by the people who truly support me, I'm filled with a sense of peace and fulfillment. The ceremony is about to begin, and I can see Edward waiting for me at the trellis, his eyes shining with love and anticipation. But just an hour ago, my world was turned upside down when I learned that my children, Alex and Lily, were outside in the parking lot, sitting in their car. It all started years ago when I lost my first husband, Henry. We had been married for 42 years, and he was the love of my life. He was a gentle and kind man, always there for me and our children. After his passing, I was lost and alone, struggling to find my place in the world. It was Lily who suggested I join the Golden Years Community Center, a place for seniors to socialize and engage in activities. At the center, I met Edward. He was 76 years old, a retired architect from California who had moved to our town after his wife passed away. He was tall and handsome, with a warm smile and a kind heart. We hit it off immediately, and soon we were spending more and more time together. We went on walks, had dinner at local restaurants, and shared our hopes and dreams. After a few years, Edward proposed to me, and I said yes without hesitation. I was 74 years old, and I had never been happier. But when I told Alex and Lily the news, they were not happy. They thought I was too old to get married again, and they were convinced that Edward was only after my money. They tried to talk me out of it, but I was determined to follow my heart. I knew that Edward loved me for who I was, and I loved him just as much. I also knew that I had worked hard all my life to build a comfortable life for myself, and I had every right to do what I wanted with my money. But my children didn't see it that way. They started to put pressure on me, trying to convince me to change my mind. They even went so far as to hire a lawyer to send a letter to Edward, threatening to take legal action if we got married. I was devastated. I couldn't believe that my own children would treat me this way. I had always been there for them, supporting them through thick and thin. But now, they were trying to ruin my happiness. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I hired an attorney, a woman named Sarah Thompson, to help me protect my assets and ensure that my wishes were respected. Sarah was a smart and experienced lawyer, and she assured me that everything would be okay. She drafted a prenuptial agreement, which Edward signed without hesitation. This agreement protected my assets and ensured that in the event of my death, my estate would be distributed according to my wishes. I also decided to update my will. I had always intended to leave everything to my children, but after their behavior, I realized that I needed to make some changes. I decided to leave a portion of my estate to Edward, as well as to a local charity that was close to my heart. My children were not happy when they found out about the changes to my will. They accused me of being selfish and unfair, and they threatened to take me to court. But I was not going to back down. I knew that I was doing the right thing, and I was determined to stand up for myself. As the wedding day approached, I was filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety. I was excited to marry Edward and start a new chapter in my life, but I was also worried about how my children would react. When Carolyn, my dear friend and wedding coordinator, told me that Alex and Lily were outside in the parking lot, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that they would come here on my wedding day and try to ruin it. I decided to invite them inside. I wanted them to see that I was happy, and I wanted them to understand that I was making the right decision. When they came in, they were dressed in their best clothes, but their faces were cold and angry. They tried to talk me out of getting married, but I wouldn't listen. I told them that I loved Edward, and I was going to marry him. I also told them that I had made my decision, and I was not going to change my mind. As we talked, I could see that their true motives were starting to show. They were not concerned about my happiness, they were only concerned about their inheritance. They started to talk about the house, the investments, and the money, and I realized that they had been planning this for a long time. I was heartbroken. I couldn't believe that my own children would be so greedy and selfish. I told them that I was disappointed in them, and I asked them to leave. They left, but not before Alex turned to me and said, "You're going to regret this." I watched them drive away, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. I was sad that my children had chosen to be so cruel and unkind, but I was also relieved that I no longer had to deal with their negativity. I took a deep breath and walked out to the garden. Edward was waiting for me at the trellis, his eyes filled with love and support. I took his hand, and we walked towards the minister. The ceremony was beautiful. We exchanged vows, and we were pronounced husband and wife. The guests cheered and clapped, and I felt a sense of joy and happiness that I had never felt before. After the ceremony, we had a reception in the garden. The food was delicious, and the music was wonderful. We danced and laughed, and I felt like I was in a dream. As the evening wore on, I looked around at the people who were there to support me. I saw Carolyn, my dear friend, who had been by my side throughout this entire process. I saw Frank, my neighbor, who had sent Edward a warm handwritten note when he heard the news. I saw the women from my support group, who had shared their own stories of love and loss with me. And I saw Edward's children, who had traveled from California to be here for our wedding. I realized that I had so much to be grateful for. I had a wonderful husband, who loved me and supported me. I had a group of friends and family who cared about me. And I had the strength and courage to stand up for what I believed in. In the weeks that followed, the legal situation resolved itself. Sarah had been thorough in her preparation, and she had gathered all the evidence she needed to prove that I was of sound mind and that I had made my decisions freely and without coercion. My children's lawyer reviewed the evidence and decided that there was no case. They dropped their threats, and they stopped trying to interfere in my life. I was relieved. I was finally able to move on with my life and focus on my marriage. Edward and I traveled to different places, explored new hobbies, and spent time with our friends and family. Looking back on that day, I realized that it was a turning point in my life. It was a day when I learned to stand up for myself and to follow my heart. It was a day when I realized that true love and happiness are not determined by the opinions of others, but by the choices we make for ourselves. So, if you're facing a similar situation, I encourage you to be brave and to do what you believe is right. Don't let the fear of what others might think stop you from living the life you want. Remember, it's never too late to find love and happiness, and it's never too late to stand up for yourself. What would you have done in my situation? Leave a comment below and let me know. And if this story has inspired you, please share it with others. Thank you for listening.